Okay, so this is the BabyHawk HD. This is my second one. The first one was fail-safing at about 30 meters. And I just sent it back as is to Race Day Quads. And they were going to replace it, but all they had was the FR Sky D8 model. And I was using the DJI, the Vista S-Bus and the DJI radio. So I said, go ahead, send me that FR Sky version. And I changed I took out the receiver and I wired up the S-Bus from the Vista, and I also added this antenna. And I take it here to test it because from end to end, this parking lot is almost a half a mile. This is where it failed the first time, but I'm not a big fan of this parking lot because if you have a fail-safe, as you can see, you're crashing into concrete. And since I've already changed some things out, if it fail-safes now, that's going to be on me. Since I put some tools on it, it's my problem. Now this antenna is an iFlight left-hand polarized antenna, and I thought it was going to be a little more bendy, but that must be some kind of aluminum. I bought it for another build, but I decided to use it on this one because the Vista antenna only came this high. And I thought it would be a hard plastic, and maybe I could take a heat gun and bend it just a little and kind of get it facing out that direction. But it must be some kind of aluminum, and I'm afraid to heat that and try to bend it a little. I don't want to melt the insulation on the wires or anything inside. And aluminum is not like copper where you can just heat it up and bend it real easy. You can make a mistake and just break it real easy. So I'm just going to go with it straight up in the air for now. And I'm going to see if I can make it to the under end of that parking lot. I'm not going to do any flips or anything like that because I don't want to wreck it. And all around here is water. Over here you have the Missouri River. Over here is it's kind of like a lake or a pond. But it's all overflow from the river. There's a quarry right there. And then it's all concrete. So there's just nowhere good to land it. And I have the sun in my eyes. A lot of times I'll fly it from the other direction. But there's a truck parked down there. That's just under a half a mile to that truck. So I'm in St. Charles County, Missouri, which is a suburb of St. Louis. And this is private property. You think suburbs, you think parks, but in parks in this area there are people everywhere. This is like the biggest, most populous county in the United States. And the other day I was flying a Mobulus 6 around a park, and I had a maintenance worker pull up and just shake his head at me like, no drones. And I know they have those rules, but a Mobulus 6, I've been kicked out of parks, or at least told to land it and be done many times. So this is where I go. Usually nobody bothers me. I don't think anybody has any jurisdiction. And so I take my chances here. Normally I'll fly here and not worry, but since this is somewhat of a new build, and I've already had a fail-safe once, I know Emax makes a good product, but my experience with Emax, their products are good when they work, but their quality control, I think, is not that good. So I'm gonna get this in the air and we're just gonna see how it goes. So I'm just gonna lift it off here in angle mode and just get it up in the air. I get it up in the air about 10 feet away, 20 feet away, 30 feet high at the most, and it just spins out and crashes. You see, I have no idea what just happened there. I'm just flying in angle mode in midair. Everything's tightened up on this drone. I tightened every screw. I didn't over tighten anything. Everything was fine. I'm flying. I got about, I don't know, 30 feet in the air. I started to move forward, and it just freaked out. I have no idea what's going on. Maybe I can look at this video in the goggles. I wish you could play the video on the OSD. But I'm going to look at that. Okay, so I went home, got some other props. The only other props I had that would even come close to working are these 3-inch gym fan, and these are the kind that have the little adapter so you can use them on a 5mm post or this T-mount. And I hate those props because usually if you hit anything with them, they just shatter. Okay, this is just a little test flight and landing. Unfortunately, I landed in some taller grass than I thought, and I had to walk out and get it because it was all tangled up with tall grass. I was going to land it and then just launch it again. Just a little test flight. I want to get some grass rather than that parking lot. Here I tried to launch it, but it just flipped over. I cleaned out the grass and I got it launched. And I'm flying around. Now this one here is totally my fault because I was going to flip it out of angle mode, and I'm used to flying that Mobula 6 because we've had some bad weather, and I fly that with my other radio, and the switches are totally different, and I just accidentally disarmed it instead of flipping it into acro, and then it just fell again. You don't get to see it crash because when I disarmed it, it stopped the recording. So this is my first actual flight with this drone. And I got the 3-inch propellers that I bought for I think I bought it for the HX115 little toothpick type drone from HGLRC. That's all I had. So these are 3-inch props, not very aggressively pitched. And still, I'm still in the mode where I'm very timid because this drone was not cheap. And I shouldn't have took that first flight out there on the concrete, but I did. And of course, anytime I do that, I have some weird failsafe. I had that before. Maybe there's something about that location. So these props are not that strong, but they're getting the job done here. I'm more worried about the range, and I'm watching the megabits per second, and I'm looking at the RC signal and things like that. And so I'm just flying around in front of me and a little bit behind me, and I'm not really trying to do any tricks. And like I said, this grass is kind of tall, and there is some water and tracks in the mud. Looks like somebody might have been riding a four-wheeler out here or something. And I just switched it to LED mode there. I was just messing with the camera settings, trying to get a little more light. This is a Nebula Pro Caddx Vista. And I guess I didn't realize it at first because I was really starting to become a bucket of nerves. And then when I came up on this spot, I just wanted to get this test in before it got dark. I've never flown here before. I just pulled over, saw an empty field, and said, fuck it. I'm just going to fly because that first crash just had me completely confused. Now, I came from the Mavic world, so I'm not used to crashing. And I started doing the FPV thing late last fall, but I didn't have goggles until almost December when I bought the goggles for the, I just bought the DJI goggles and a Fusion module for analog. And the main reason I bought those was I was going to do some digital, but they fit, my glasses fit inside of them. And I just wear cheaters, but they fit right inside there. And so when I did all the pricing with the Fat Sharks and all that, I had no idea, DJI was going to pretty much make them obsolete. So I stocked up on Vistas and Air units. I traded my Mavic Air and bought a couple Air units. So I have a couple Air units. I have 2 Vistas, for future builds. I got a Nebula camera. I got a Nano camera extra. So I can still do a little bit of digital with the version 1 system, and I don't plan on getting the version 2 system unless DJI comes out with a phenomenal sub 250 gram FPV drone. And DJI needs to be a little bit more compatible with their remote controls and their goggles. You know, I've been in the DJI world for quite a while. I had 4 Mavics at one time. I got 3 now. And every time it comes with a new remote and a new different batteries and chargers, and everything is so proprietary. Almost nothing is compatible. Now the new Mini 2 will work with the Mavic Air 2 controller, but you can't just buy the Mini 2 unless you buy it renewed just by itself. And the Mini 2 will work with the Mini 1 batteries, but that apparently puts it over the weight limit. And again, you'd have to buy it renewed, and then you'd have to bind it with your Mavic Air 2 controller, and I don't know. Anybody who has experience with DJI is going to know a lot of these things. It's very frustrating. And in a lot of ways, you know, Emax only sending me 1 set of props with this drone. And this was not a cheap little, I'm going to call it a 4-inch drone, when really it's more of a 3-inch drone with 3.5-inch props. So it's not just something you can go out and buy 3.5-inch props at the model shop. And you can't, I think RDQ has a version that you can buy. They're not Emax, but they'll work. But it's not readily available stuff. So Emax needs to buck up a little bit and add an extra set of props or 2 at least. Come on. It's ridiculous. And they're only 3-inch, so they're not 3.5. So that flight there was with these props. Less aggressive. Motors didn't get hot at all or anything, and it flies really good. It flies just as advertised. I just don't know why it crashed in that last parking lot. For no reason. I didn't do anything else but change the propellers. The only thing I can think of was possibly maybe I over-tightened a prop and cracked it. Maybe that's something I should be aware of. I haven't heard that, and those Emax props are pretty tough. And these I snugged them up and maybe just a tiny little bit more, and that was it. The other ones, I put them on there good and tight because I've crashed drones before when prop screws have come off. So I don't know, but it flies pretty good with these 3-inch props. So just keep that in mind if you're watching this video and you do break your props, because Emax, and I have no idea why, you spend this kind of money on a quad like this, and they send 1 set of props. That's it.